Oh, okay. I see the little red light. All right. Welcome, everybody. Today is Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. It's 6:31 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order of the regular meeting of the Marquette Township Board. And Randy, if you would do roll call, I'd appreciate it.
I'll do the pledge first, Lynn.
Okay, you got the flag.
I'll do that here. There's the flag.
Okay. We were going to rotate on who pledged, but Randy Gerard, why don't you lead us?
Oh, sure. Ready?
Yep.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 1 week on vacation and he's lost it already.
Yeah. Just there's so much clutter already.
Yes. Okay, now roll call.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is our ex-manager Gerard is here for a special guest tonight, and our new manager John Kangas is here, and our legal counsel Roger Zapp is here, and committee members present are as Todd Caruth from the Recreation Committee.
Great, thank you. Public comment. We've gotten a couple emails, Randy. They did not ask that they be read, but
they're very short, Lynn. I can probably put them on the screen and read them short, for just so the public sees what we got, and I'll do that right now.
Okay. You had sent the one to the board. The gentleman asked that I guess it was a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got two, and I'll put the two on the screen.
Looks like two women. Well, a husband too.
Okay, so this is the first one we got regarding the spaceport under public comment from Elizabeth Bates. And it reads, thank you for the opportunity to bring the matter of concern during this board meeting. It was recently announced that Granite Loma is being proposed as a possible location for a spaceport. Several public officials have come out in favor of it, though from my reading of the articles about it, they were only informed 2 days ahead of time. Spaceport comes with consequences, and stewards of our township, I ask that each of you research this proposal in depth. There are consequences all around, from environmental to residential. The surrounding area is devoid of people. And I gotta move it here because I can't see that. Okay, residential, the surrounding area is devoid of people. There are residences on all sides of Granite Loma, residences that will be severely impacted by the construction, traffic, noise, pollution, further erosion of the shoreline possibly, and probably damage to the buildings in the vicinity to us, the people who live there. Space launches are not free from mistakes. We need to obviously to be concerned about the lake we live on and its clean water. All of us know that the spaceport comes with the promise of jobs. In the Mining Journal announcement, they suggested for engineers earning $95,000 to $107,000 a year. Will these jobs go with the residents of Big Bay, Marquette, or out of town, out of the state experienced personnel who will not necessarily live in our area? Jobs are a good thing for the UP, but a spaceport here will cancel out other possibilities. It says, why not purchase Granite Loma and use it to provide a lodge as a gathering place, convention center, and allow public use of the miles of shoreline and acres of woods. With COVID-19 alive and well, every parking lot plus the sides of 550 are tightly packed with cars, with people looking to be outdoors. Surveys conducted in Marquette County have repeatedly emphasized people's desire for outdoor recreation areas, not more industry. I urge you to research this idea completely before applauding our good fortune. You can start by checking out the Camden Spaceport in Southwest Georgia and the already constructed at Boca Chica in Texas. And then she has some links here down below. And it says, thank us all to take heed. Thank you, Elizabeth J. Bates. And that's the first one.
There is one more line there that you missed right before her signature.
Okay. Oh, that was a quote, but. And the second one is from Betsy Little. It says, "Dear members of the Marquette Township Board, my husband and I are full-time residents of Marquette Township. We are dismayed that people promoting a spaceport are considering a location on the shores of Lake Superior at Granite Loma. This type of development would threaten the dedicated ecological balance of Lake Superior and the adjacent lands. People currently are flocking to our county and township for recreational purposes. There are lines of cars parked along 550 because people are hiking the Sugarloaf, Little Presque Isle, and Wetmore's Landing. These tourists are contributing to our economy and taking advantage of our scenic spaces. This is the type of activity that we support." Paul Marin and Betsy Little. And that's all the emails I got for public comment.
Thank you for reading those. Is there any other public that would like to address the board before we start our meeting? Looks like we have someone coming in, so I'll give them a second in case they...
Looks like they just went to mute, so.
Anybody else like to address the board before we start the meeting? Public comment. Okay, we'll move on. Board member comment in relation to the correspondence we received. Dave?
Yeah, I guess I've been reading more than just a couple of these, and the trend has me a little concerned. First, I believe it's premature for any municipality to come out on either side of this yet, as there are too little facts. It's for the same reason that I believe it's premature for anyone else to come out on either side of this issue. In fact, a large part of the majority of concerns heard are based upon unknown quantities, and it appears to boil down to the fear of the unknown. To suggest that residents on all sides of Granite Loma will be severely impacted by the construction, traffic, noise, pollution, further erosion of the shoreline, possible and probably damage to the building in the vicinity is a leap into the unknown. It is suggested that a municipality can purchase Granite Loma and use it to provide a lodge as a gathering place, convention center, and allow public use of the miles of shoreline and acres of woods. Great idea. The problem is Granite Loma has been on the market for several years for $20+ million. To suggest that any neighboring municipality has this kind of resources during this era of dark store and COVID-19 is simply not realistic. However, I would suggest that a group of like-minded individuals put their resources together and work towards such a common goal. A wise man has reminded us from time to time that if you want control over what the adjacent property can be used for, you should buy it. I believe it's great that we're being considered for such a project. Having said that, I also believe that it's incumbent upon all of us to monitor the situation as it moves forward over its forecast 5-year development.
Okay.
That's it.
Anybody else? Okay. There are numerous questions about the whole spaceport project, alleged, if you want to call it that. I have checked with both of our county representatives last week and with the county administrator, and nobody has any more news than what we had already heard. The email is correct that we got notice about 1 or 2 days ahead of time about the press conference. We were not informed ahead of time. I got the invitation. I called Manager Gerard and said, you might as well come too. It doesn't look like a special one. So the two of us went down to the courthouse and listened to the press release and the extolling of all the virtues of this. We have no more facts than anybody else does. And I believe that's what the company is trying to do, is compile some of the facts. I listened to the Planning Commission, and Dave, maybe you want to comment on that. The planning meeting, a gentleman zipped in on a public comment and had some questions and comments. He lives up on Eagles Nest Road also. And listening to him, you would think the project was going to start tomorrow. And that's not the case. I mean, they said it would be at least 5 years. But as a governing body, we have to be kind of careful what we support or not support. And I'm not saying I'm in favor or not in favor. It doesn't really matter. What the public has to remember is that people buy property, and as long as they have their ducks in a row with zoning or ordinances or whatever kind of compliance the municipality enforces, they can pretty much do whatever they want with their property. And I had one gentleman say to me, how can the county allow this to happen? It's not up to the county. Like I say, if they buy their property, somebody's land, if you buy a house and you want to put up a garage, as long as you conform to the local regulations, you can put up a garage. If you want to tear the house down and build another one, you can do that. So we have to be careful of whether we say this is good or bad, I think, because we don't know that yet. And if a company wants to come in and, you know, dig a mine or put up a truck garage or tear down a school, they can kind of do what they want. So just be careful what you say or don't say or wish for, because we'll have to see, first of all, how this unfolds. We don't have enough answers yet. Dan?
Do we even know if it's in our jurisdiction?
Not for sure.
No. We have zero say on it. It's most likely not even going to be in our township.
It's possible the land may be in the township, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the project would be built there. The
Right.
township supervisor didn't know anything about this. So, you know, people don't think about coming to the municipality when they want to do things, which is troublesome for us in some cases. Randy, you want to share?
Just a clarification, you know, there's the implication that the local governments at least knew something about it. Even at the press conference, we had no idea of where it was being located. It was after the press conference that Supervisor Durant and I cornered one of our county commissioners and said, well, where are you talking? Where is it? And that's when we found out that it was Granite Loma. And then they still even could not pinpoint where on Granite Loma, which is several thousand acres, that the location might be. So, you know, in getting to Commissioner Trustee Everson's point, there is some of that land in Marquette Township. We have we have several hundred acres in Marquette Township, but I don't believe any of those acres are involved in this project. So you're right, this is likely not going to be occurring in Marquette Township, but there are Marquette Township residents, roughly 100 of them, within half a mile of the likely location, as far as we know.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. That is true. They didn't even announce at the conference on the courthouse lawn with all the people there where it was. I forgot about that. It's been so long. Dave, did you want to comment on the gentleman who spoke at the planning meeting? I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but he had...
I believe it was a relation to the letter we got, and it was pretty much the same comments.
Okay, okay. I didn't know the gentleman, so I wasn't sure. Okay. Anything else on that? All right, thank you. All right, then approval of the agenda. Tonight's agenda consists of regular meeting minutes of August 18th, 2020, and special meeting minutes of August 19th. Bills payable tonight in the amount of $360,000, $259.16. We do have a budget amendment, so we're going to do a roll call anyway. This is 2020-06. And we have reports, compensation dividend from workers' comp, workers' comp dividend. Utility billing calendar from September. We have two correspondents, Semco Energy gas customers, case U-20726, which is always in Lansing, And Charter Communications did provide us with a quarterly franchise fee payment, which is very nice. So if anybody wants to make a motion.
So moved. I'll make a motion for approve the consent agenda.
I'll support.
Okay. Randy, did you want to read the text or the text amendment? Yeah. Budget amendment?
Put it up on the screen here so people can see the budget amendment. So present to the board tonight, budget amendment 2020-06. And that highlights of that budget amendment is authorization is requested to reclassify expenditures within the solid waste, general wastewater, and water funds. General fund department decreases include the board, travel, miscellaneous, as well as appropriations, community promotion. Increases are in the manager department, 2 employees for 2 months, as well as a retirement payout. General services, administration, and computer services. The wastewater, water, and solid waste funds, 10,000, 10,000, and 2,500 respectively, reflect the public works superintendent position being open since the manager appointment. Offsetting the decrease in the solid waste is an increase due to the higher anticipated cost for the first Wednesday rubbish, mainly for extra containers needed to accommodate the large number of users.
Okay, thank you. So we have motion and support for the consent agenda. If you want to do a roll call then.
Okay, I'll get this off the screen here. Okay, Trustee or Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and we just need a motion for the approval of the rest of the agenda unless somebody has any changes to make.
So moved.
I'll second John's motion then.
Okay, roll call again.
Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Actually, I did you twice, but that's good. You said yes twice. Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest. So I have the pleasure of reading a resolution tonight. We did have, I say the staff put it together and we all kind of contributed a surprise party for the outgoing manager Gerard last Friday. It was his last day with the township after like 100 years, I think, 18. Gee, I've been barely alive that long. So I just asked him to join us tonight. Don't laugh. Because I thought the public might like to see, it's a pretty long one, but we just wanted to, the public watches these meetings and not just the staff. I wanted to share with everybody and have it as a matter of record too. So if you'll indulge me, I will read Marquette Charter Township honors Randall E. Gerard. Whereas government in general has an obligation to provide its citizens the best possible. And whereas township government in particular provides the most direct and personal hands-on services to its citizens. And whereas in recognition of this fact, the Marquette Charter Township first appointed Randall E. Gerard as township manager in 2002. And whereas in recognition of his commendable service to the Marquette Charter Township, Randall has guided the township in continued expansion and development in support of community growth. And whereas Randall has provided the township business and residential communities with direct and uninterrupted services for a term spanning 18 years. And whereas Randall is retiring from his duties and responsibilities as township manager, now therefore be it resolved that the Marquette Charter Township Board of Trustees gratefully expresses its appreciation for the dedicated service of Randall E. Gerard, and be it further resolved on behalf of all of our citizens The Marquette Charter Township Board of Trustees wishes Randall and his family the best in the future. Proclaimed this first day of September 2020 and signed by Lynn J. Durant, Supervisor, Marquette Charter Township Board of Trustees. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I thank the board for making 18 years. This current board plus the prior boards have all basically had a vision for the community, and we distilled that down many years ago to a catchphrase that's been used quite a bit: "Catch the vision." And it's over the last week. Retirement is kind of bittersweet for those of you who've never done it, and I think almost everybody on the board has at one point or a time retired. But you have a penchant to look back basically and say, was it time or was it not time? And you look back at the things that the township has done. I can only look back over the last 18 years, but there's some very significant things that happened, and they were all driven by the board. Mostly following recommendations of your extremely professional and capable staff that you have. I mean, you're blessed to have the staff that you have that are still there and working with you, including John. John's got quite a bit of background in municipalities around the region and easily can move into the slot. I'm saying easily. I don't know what he's going to say, but I'm saying easily. But if you look back to simple things, boards took a lot of heat for things that you did, like the road to nowhere. When we put Commerce Drive across to Brookton Road, got all kinds of heat about the road to nowhere. Why would you waste money doing that? Now it's probably the busiest intersection in the area, in the region. Probably carries even more traffic than McClellan does. I'm not sure, but it's got to be close. Little things like that. Buying the piece of property and vacating. Taking the house off of it to create the opportunity to do that. Doing the things that you've done at Lions Field over the years to make it what it is today. I mean, it was nothing. It was an antique field that wasn't cared for at all. And over a span of years, you've turned it into something that's the envy of almost all of the communities around here, and one of the few that still functions and operates. Even in the city of Marquette, they're closing down some of theirs and restricting it terribly. You've got the confidence of the residents and have had that confidence for a long time. Every millage question you've put forth has been supported by the board or by the citizens. And the reason that it's been supported is because you have done what you said you were going to do. And that's a key element, including the road project. I mean, that was a huge project, $7 million worth of road repairs, and now we're on the course of maintaining those and going forward. And you got probably the best roads in the county. So, those are the kinds of things that people kind of take for granted. The new facilities, the new fire hall, the new township hall, without going to the voters for any money. I mean, that's unheard of, but you were able to pull that off. Expansion of the fire service to include now ambulance. I mean, that was, you took a lot of heat for that. Obviously we didn't need it. It was never necessary. I mean, you got a lot of that kind of feedback, and look at it now. It is your really only source of revenue. Dark stores has taken away a lot of the revenue. So the ambulance service has kind of bolstered the fire department and created it. Now you're staffing it, weekends even. So lots and lots and lots of really positive things. And that all comes from you folks making decisions and supporting the things that your staff have researched. And, we made a conscious effort long ago to get key staff members involved on a statewide basis. You've got Dulcie, your assessor, tied in with Treasury, a key player in Treasury. So she is able to forecast for us what's going on in the future. We build that into our budgets. You've got Jason involved with statewide planning. So he sees things that are happening downstate in some of the larger communities that translate to us and brings it back here so we can get ahead of the curve up here in the UP. Those are the kinds of things, in public works, same thing. We've got our ties, John's got ties with committees, the infrastructure committee at the state level. Lenny's got contacts around the state. We did that intentionally. We did that so we would have the opportunity to have a leg up when those things were coming forward and build them into some of the plans and some of the proposals that we made to the board. And the board bought into that. The board saw the value of doing that. So it's been very forward-looking, very responsive, and I got to tell you, 18 years went by really fast. I mean, it went by really fast, And, you know, there's that old saying out there that if you like what you're doing, you never work a day. Well, I don't think there are any days that I would have not wanted to be in the township. There were some challenging days, but there was always that look, that forward look that the board had. There was always that little twinkle of we're still looking forward. So that glimmer of hope was always there. And I think that's what kept the township on an even course, even through dark stores, as bad as that is. We're still growing. You know, I don't know if any of you have taken a look at what Dulcie put together in terms of the history, the revenue history. You know, people would be shocked to find out that, and I didn't include 2002 because I was only there for half of the year. I came in May of 2002, but starting in 2003, your state equalized valuation has gone up 225%. That's huge. Even through the recession in 2008, this township continued to grow. I mean, that's amazing. When you look at some of those numbers, starting out at $149,222,000 in 2003, closing out 2020 with $333,436 million. That's huge. You know, everybody around here would love to have those kinds of numbers, even with dark stores. You know, and I think we've come up with some ideas on how to counter some of that. And, you know, and John and Chief Shanahan are working on that. You know, got some legal advice, and I think that's going to bear a lot of fruit. But again, the whole thing is this township has had a history of looking forward and being prepared to address the things that are coming up in the future. Long-term planning, your 5-year plans being done on a regular basis, your 25-year plans for public works that are being updated periodically. I mean, all of those things are critically important, and they keep the faith of the public, basically. And you know, again, I thank the board, you know, for the kind words, but it wasn't just me. It was your staff basically that carried the burden. I just steered the ship. That's all. So I wish you the best. And as I mentioned before, to you, Supervisor Durant, and also to John, if you ever have any questions about history or any questions about why we positioned ourselves in such a way to acquire pieces of property and things such as that, give me a call. I'm not going anywhere. This is home.
Great. Thank you for that. Anybody have any comments? Or Pete?
Hey, Randy, now that you're retired, do you think we could put a parade down the highway? Every time we bring that up, you just about shoot us.
Well, I'll give you the same answer I always did. As soon as MDOT signs off on it, have at it.
Yeah, I had to get that in.
Andy, you're next.
Lynn, Mike Springer had sent an email with some pictures. So if Mike wants to go over that, we'll go over that right now. I'll share the screen here.
Okay.
Let me do that. And I'll let Mike talk about these pictures here.
So yes, this is a picture from when Randy was talking about Lions Field and when we first started working on this, and Randy's been involved in that. Next picture, please. I'm sorry, we're at, yeah. So Randy was there for the first real, I would say the first real cleanup of Lions Park, and also the wall, the building of the wall. Next picture, please. This is him working there. He doesn't just show up and make a cameo. He works. Next picture, please. So he's concerned about invasive species. This illustrates. Thank you. Next picture. And here's Randy working with Dave Wiegand and Pete LaRue when we're building a warming shed. He's always involved. Next picture, please. And he always shows up for everything, whether it's Christmas tree lighting or whatever it is, he's there. And I always appreciated that about him being our manager. Next picture, please. And here's the last picture I have of Randy. This is when we installed the sign at Lions Park. And, you know, I'm going to miss him. He's been a great manager. For me, a lot of times I'd go into his office. I'd have issues or concerns or this and that. I was left feeling better, feeling like he gave me some ideas that I could work on and move forward with. So thank you, Randy. Next picture.
Nice.
One more picture, I think.
That's it, Mike. That's
There,
it.
yeah. You got to turn him sideways.
I can't do that on this.
Now that he's retired, he'd probably be laying down a lot more. But I just want to point this out, that in his plate is Michelle's marvelous macaroni and cheese.
That was marvelous.
We're up
I-
here on next picture, please.
You know, actually, that picture that's there, the caption that goes with that picture is that I was telling Mike that he needs to show Michelle that plate, because if you can see, it's got brownies, it's got fruit, and it's got her macaroni and cheese. And the point is that it's good enough to be a dessert.
Oh, you're so healthy. Such a healthy guy.
That's all the pictures I got, Mike. So.
All right. I just want to thank you, Randy, for the time. You were the guy that called me up and said supervisor wanted somebody that thought different. Yeah, I like that. And so I hope I've been of value to you in your mission or our mission as a township. And I really thank you, Randy Gerard, for inviting me to be part of this. It's been a great ride.
Well,
Thank
you know, like I said before, you know, if you are doing a job that you love, and you know, you never work a day in your life. You know, we've had some conflicts, and we've had conflicts with some folks, and we've had, you know, conflict with some residents, but they all seem to work out eventually in some manner and go forward. I mean, it's that's one of the things that I found really enjoyable and valuable about working with the township is the staff is just, I mean, they're dedicated. I mean, they're there to work for the residents, and and it shows. So anyway,
Randy, yes, Randy, you and I have differences of opinion, but we always resolve things. We always got together and we were able to work forward to keep things moving forward. I appreciate that.
well, that's why we're successful. You know, that's why we're where we are and why we have the recognition around the state as a community. Well, thank you guys for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy.
That was nice, Mike. Thank you. Mr. Picture. Mr. Dan.
I'm the youngest member of the board, and I've had the pleasure of working with Randy for only not quite 4 years. And I have the utmost respect for him. He is a wealth of knowledge. He amazes me all the time on generally, if we ask him a question, he's got the answer right on the top of his head. And I, for one, Randy, I'm going to miss you a lot. And I think you've done an outstanding job for this township. And I got to give you a hell of an attaboy, buddy.
Well, thank you.
That's nice. I can't top that. I'm sorry.
Hey, Lynn.
Go ahead.
I always want to thank Randy for when we're getting into these functions and that. You know how sometimes your creative mind starts working and you start thinking about this and that, and he's always the one that come back and say, no, we can't do this because of this, this, and this, or the financial liability or something like that. And you really got to appreciate that, because he didn't want us to get in trouble over anything. So that was the nice thing about Randy. He always come out and said, kept us in line, going down the right path, even though sometimes we like to say, God, I'd love to try that, but I thank him for that. And he's been a good friend and a good leader for us. And thanks again, Randy.
Oh, I'm going to miss it. I'll be honest, I'm going to miss it. There's no question about it. But, there comes a time where you have to just kind of step away, and get a lot of pressure from the family, to be more involved in things here for the however many years there are remaining. So Everybody's fighting that calendar.
Mhm. You hear that a lot from politicians, especially, you know, they're gray within a few years and they always retire or resign because of family. Because this is very encompassing, you know, what we do, even though some of it's volunteer work and some of it isn't. There's a lot involved behind the scenes that people don't see. I remember
Very much so.
one guy yelling at me because he didn't like the way Randy presented the opposite idea or something, whatever we were talking about at the board level. And Randy was the naysayer. And why does he have to be so negative? And I said, that's his job. He has to bring us all of the information. He can't just bring us the rainbows and unicorns. You've got to talk about the whole. If you listen to some of these other municipalities with their meetings, they don't deliberate. They don't talk. We do. Yeah, we've got couple-hour meetings, but we vet those topics, and that's partly from all the information Randy gave us. He gave us the whole scoop, not just one side. So that's important.
If I can get a Lions Club and a parade, Randy, I'll get you to ride on that float.
As long as it's not a dunk tank.
You did that too.
A couple of years, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Okay. We got to move on. Thanks for joining us, Randy. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure you got other stuff to do now.
Actually, I've got some grandkids that want to go to the Peter White Public Library for the concert going on there. So
Good.
That's where I'm headed.
Okay. Have fun.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
All right. That was fun. Community linkage. First item up is to consider a request for a speed study. Who wants to take that one? I forget who the email was addressed to. I don't think I didn't even print it. John, did you have that? No. I wonder if that came to Randy. I should have caught him.
I'm not actually familiar with it.
We had done a speed study. Oh, yes. And I didn't print it because it wasn't real. It was just a correspondence. I remember. We did the speed study a while back, this year, in fact, on 492, and kind of found that there wasn't a whole lot we could do about it. I did get an email, and I don't remember if I forwarded it to you or not, from the supervisor in Powell Township asking if we would consider requesting a speed study because it has to be done in our township, the area she's talking about, Harlow Lake area. So I told her I would bring it to the board and we would discuss it. Again, and I did remind her or tell her that we'd done this recently, kind of to no avail on 492. But I'm just looking for input. Is that something we want to try to pursue, or do we want to just have Roger look at it? And it's pretty much the road commission, and it's going to be the state. There's not a lot we can do with it, but apparently we know that, and I didn't really address this with her, we know that the curves, especially around Sugarloaf, are a problem. Some of that's going to be taken care of with the parking that should be finished this year. I checked with Commissioner DePietro, and they are working on it. I haven't been up that way in quite a while, but they're supposed to be finishing that this year and getting people off the road. So between there and Harlow, I think that's the biggest part of the problem. Roger, do you have any thoughts? Not really? Okay.
No, I haven't seen the request to know specifically what was being requested. So no, I guess without more information, I don't have much input.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, they've got quite a bit of preliminary work done up there already. Some of the paving work is in on the new lot. They've actually made a new trail up to get onto the existing trail. As far as I know, they haven't allowed anybody in their parking yet, but it's coming along quite well. I don't see how that's going to affect the curves in that area. They're not really doing the work on the road. It's just going to be the parking lot, and then they're going to move over to the second parking lot and do some improvements on that one too, is what I understand.
Yeah, it's just getting the cars off of 550. Not that all of them are going to be going to Sugarloaf, but that's a bit congested.
They're gonna have a lot of spaces for cars, trailers, cars with trailers. It's gonna be nice.
Mm-hmm. John, what do you know?
So the other part of the equation, Marquette County has also requested a traffic control order be put in place to install no parking signs along that stretch, which I think will at least help get vehicles away from the roadway, which will help people see a little bit further. I'm not sure that's going to help with the speed though. When vehicles park on the shoulder of the road, it does force traffic to slow down, which might be the ideal time to do a traffic study. But my guess is by the time Michigan State Police could schedule a traffic study out there, that the impacts of the parked vehicles are probably going to wane as the season continues. So that 85th percentile is what it always comes down to, and it might mean the posted speed goes up or goes down or stays the same, and it usually means it goes up because people are driving at higher rates of speed these days.
True. Yeet.
And a couple of years ago, right up from Phil's store up 3-4 miles where that residential area strip is, they asked if they could get a speed reduced in that area. And it went to the road commission, and apparently they didn't do anything about it because they're the one who could do that. But there are a couple of residents up there talking about how fast the cars are coming down into Marquette around Phil's and about 2 miles north of that. So there is concern up there, and maybe we can have the county road commission look at it again. I don't know how fast they are doing, but it might warrant a speed study though. And like John said, 85%, it might go the other way because the cars are moving pretty fast there.
Mm-hmm. I could check with Iwanaki and see what his thoughts are on it too. I don't know if Darlene did from Powell Township yet. Dave?
Yeah, we keep going over this every time somebody comes up and requests a speed study, but the way it's all written, the speed that the cars are actually driving is what drives where the speed is set at, and there's no place in their ordinance that it considers the safety and welfare of the people that live on that road. It's whatever the traffic is doing. And I mean, do one if we will, but I don't think it's going to make any difference as long as that's the only criteria is a percentage of what the speed is actually doing. It's just not going to drive anything down.
And unfortunately, unless there are some kind of fatalities or accidents, the government doesn't look at that either. I say government because of the MDOT side of it, state police.
I think that's only signs up, signs up children or something like that, or slow down, or, that's the only thing I do because, like you say, the speed limit, if you do check it, might go faster,
Mm-hmm.
You only go 55 miles an hour there, so.
Dan?
We did just have a fatality up there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a fatality up there just about 3 weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right in that area that she's concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
The whole area in there it is fast. They really are. But what they're going to do about it, I don't know.
Well, let me talk with Iwanaki and see what he knows, or I'll call Darlene back. See what precipitated it. I did call her and leave her a message, and I didn't get an answer before the meeting, but I'll follow up again. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were.
There's this red sign on Warner Street. It says something to the effect that drive like your kids are playing here.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple in the township. Yeah.
It was good.
If it works, especially. If you remember too, I wanted to remind you, and I got a reminder email today from Lieutenant Tim Scholander. He was the state police employee who contacted me 2 meetings ago, I think, and asked if we would reconsider our upset donation that we do every year. So I told him that I would bring it up again tonight. It's not an agenda item, but that I thought he would we would discuss it during the budget sessions, and I expect that we're going to have to schedule that at the next meeting. We need to get those going pretty soon. So I did tell him he was welcome to either Zoom in tonight, and if he had any comments under public comment, but if he wanted to address the board either during the work sessions or whenever we have it on the agenda for the budget, that he could. And I did send him tonight's link just in case, but I just want to kind of give you an update to think about it. When we start talking money, we know that we don't even have match money. And I don't remember if it's 1,000 or 2,000 that we give upset. I don't know off the top of my head.
$1,000 that we donate.
Yeah, his comment was that other communities around us were contributing, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, and that he also, or they have just recently done some work and busts in the township. So I think he's trying to justify his request, which is fine. So it'll come up again if he decides he wants to address the board, but otherwise I'd like to talk about it during the budget sessions. And I'm thinking, John, while I'm talking budget, we could probably put it on the next agenda to schedule and get everything. You and I needed to visit about it first, but so we don't forget and all of a sudden it's November, you know. Well, you guys, you're still working with your departments to try to make sure you know where you are, because it's all kind of new, but I'll mark it down too for the next agenda. All right, that's all I have for community linkage. Anybody hearing anything else from neighbors or friends or anything you want to share? Problems, concerns? That's a good thing, I guess. Okay, let's move on to committee updates. What have you got, Dave? Start with planning?
Oh, well, I'll start with road because that's the way it is on the paper.
I always write planning first. Go ahead.
The August 5th road committee meeting was briefed at the August 18th board meeting. Today's road committee meeting was canceled due to a lack of agenda items. And the next meeting is going to be October the 6th, and that's when we'll start working on recommendations for the road rehabilitation project for 2021. The Planning Commission is a little detailed, and I would request that Roger follow along, and if I make any mistakes here on that marijuana, that you can correct me when I get to the end. The August 26th Planning Commission meeting, the commission, following discussion and by consensus, elect to abandon further consideration of the zoning ordinance text amendment prohibiting unusual or explosive use of engine and compressed air braking devices. The commission will continue to research and recommend zoning ordinance text amendments to allow for and regulate mobile food trucks. And then consideration of draft medical and adult use recreational marijuana zoning text amendment following review from Attorney Zappa was discussed at length at the meeting. In general, the commission is considering the following, and I would go into this detail just because it seems to be a topic of interest among everybody. First, the commission is considering separation of Articles 2, which is definitions, and Articles 15, which is principal uses permitted in districts of the zoning ordinance, from a recommended board ordinance, which would cover the balance of it. Doing this because it would be a more enforceable and more easily amendable aspects of adult use and recreational marijuana. Additionally, the zoning ordinance would retain the requirement for a zoning ordinance special use permit, along with this required public hearing, because we always wanted to keep the public involved in this. Also being considered will be the requirement for a state of Michigan pre-qualification certificate prior to application submission to the Township Planning and Zoning Department. And finally, it was a consensus of the commission that the number of allowed establishments would be determined by the number of licenses issued as opposed to the number of physical addresses. It's further the opinion of the commission that the zoning text amendments and ordinance regarding this issue can and should be completed by year's end as originally forecast. The Recreation Committee met on the 18th, and we briefed the board at that time and got approval to move ahead with a developing informational presentation of the residents about the recreational millage that's going to be on the November ballot. We held a special meeting, and we're hopeful that we'll have something to present to the board, because I know the board wants to see it prior to going out to anybody at their September 15th meeting. And we're planning on putting that information out during October for the November election.
Dave, are you?
So unless somebody.
Will you have kind of a presentation on that then? Are you going to show us what you were thinking of doing? You want an agenda item, or what do you think?
We've got another special meeting for the 8th of September where we're going to put the final program together. But yes, on the 15th, you might want to put something on agenda so that we can show you what we got.
Okay.
Roger, did that pretty well cover what we're talking about in the
Yes.
marijuana?
Yes, that was an accurate summation. Just one elaboration is that the special use permit retention is to also allow a real, well, an application of conditions for the specific site that's going to be utilized by each licensee, so that it better fits the needs and the conditions of the neighborhood, the neighbors, the adjoining properties, and so forth. So that is something that was discussed at length.
That was a very lengthy meeting. Lots of discussion. What do we have on events, Pete? Anything? How does Christmas look?
Well, like you heard Randy, they got a tree all lined up. You know, we can get a tree, but the rest of it are waiting for Todd to get back. He was gone out of town. And then I'll contact him tomorrow about, we have to set up a meeting and go from there and see what possibilities, see what the governor says next week.
Yeah.
Next week's going to make a lot to do with us anyways, you know, so, you know, you want to do it, but, you know, you don't want to be someone come and get the virus and then so, yeah, you had to have that thing, that Christmas thing, and that's where I got the virus or something like that. You know, you worry about that, even though, you know, you can go up one side the mall and come back the other side, and 6 feet, 7 feet difference, and, you know, but you don't want anyone sick either, but we're trying to be very cautious, but we really like to do that, you know. So if there's a way of doing it, we're going to do it. So we'll find out, and then we'll bring it back to the board, and because I think the board should make some kind of a decision about that, because it concerns the township and, you know, our reputation in the township. So, all right, that's it. That's all we have. Then winter.
Yeah, that's just 3 months off or 2.
Yeah.
And then for any public that might be listening or watching this later, remember that if you want to participate in some of these events, we're stymied right now because we've had to cancel a couple, but maybe you've got, you know, an hour a month that you can share with the township to help or advise. We need different ideas and different hands. And if you can't work a lot on a committee, that's okay. But you know, new ideas and new faces and
talked about a lot of different things, you know, and people got ideas out there. They should bring them to us and, you know, explain what the kind they are, because, you know, you have to keep the juices going. It's just, you know, we're very active and we got people that like to help and that, but you need ideas and people to follow through on them, you know. I mean, we talked about a sledding hill. We talked about a lot of things, you know, it's just, but we need people to get involved in that. They have their input and then also be there and help to do some of the stuff.
And some folks have got their passions, so if they're willing to share their expertise or their time, we would appreciate it. And we always appreciate our volunteers. Just ask Mike Springer.
Yeah, younger the better too.
Yeah. Anything else on committee updates?
Nope, not for events.
Okay. We didn't have any committee reports either, other than just the verbal we just heard. So 9A is to consider recommended approval of Recreation Committee bylaws. Who's going to take that one?
Before you go there, in reviewing the board packet, the version that's in the board packet is not the version that I approved or that the Recreation Committee looked over and adopted as, or recommended.
We should put it to the next meeting then if we get that.
Well, all of the changes that I suggested were truly minor, but they are in section 4 and they are not in this version that's in the board packet. I sent a red line version to the township on July 21 with a short letter explaining the recommended revisions, and they're not in here.
Who did that go to? Did it fall to the manager, Gerard?
No. Well, it went primarily to Jason McCarthy.
Okay.
Because he's the one who sent it to me saying, please look at these. So that's where I responded. I believe I copied that to others. I can't tell.
I think we can put it off the next meeting anyway, so.
Sure. Dave?
Yeah, the Recreation Committee originally sent it to the Planning Commission, and the red line copy is what was reviewed at the Planning Commission. They're the ones that recommended it to the board. So I would think we need to put it off until the next meeting.
Okay. So were Rogers, did the commission see the changes from Roger too? Or did that get missed there?
Yes, we did. We had the red line changes that Roger had submitted to us, and there weren't any in-depth things that were on there, just some minor changes, but we should be looking at the right document.
Well, I had submitted my red line question type things too, asking should this be added or forget this or do that, and somehow that got missed. I don't remember who I sent it to. I'd have to look. Todd, did you know, are you working with Jason or did he put it in your lap?
No, I don't know why that wasn't ready for tonight. I had some comments prepared about what we changed, but I agree you should have it in front of you. So I'm willing to do this at the next meeting, if that's better for y'all.
It'll be September 15th.
Unless there's something you wanted to specifically comment that we can look at anyway. It's up to you.
No, I mean, might as well do it all at one time.
Okay. So next meeting.
The 15th.
We'll do 9A again.
Randy Rotari waving his hand.
Okay, yes, I have to write or I forget.
For proper, well, I will make a motion to put this item on the next agenda.
Sounds good. And you had support?
I did, from Trustee Marks.
Okay. Go ahead with a roll call.
Clerk Rotari's yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
Motion carries. This will be on the next agenda then.
Okay. If you can join us again, Todd. We'd
Okay. Happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All right. Continued discussion on MTA 2021 policy platform. This is really the last item for us. I don't know if you had a chance to read through it again, and we did talk about it a little bit last time. I did get an email today from, I think her name was Sarah, asking if we had anything that we wanted to contribute. We still have till November. We don't have to make any decisions right now or recommendations. I just didn't know if anybody had any thoughts, anything you want to see or don't agree with, or do you care? I mean, I can just tell her, no, everything's fine. Randy?
Then maybe in October, middle of October or late October, maybe the board can just send a list of their concerns or issues to you, and you can compile one. And then then anything that we have from the board, you can just submit to them. By then we'll look at it at one of the meetings, and if it's okay, we'll just submit it.
Okay. So maybe the second meeting in October?
That's fine.
Anybody, I was just gonna say, Dave, go ahead. Comments anyway.
We talked about this at the last meeting, and we made a lot of comments, and I guess I certainly wouldn't send her any indication that everything is fine. I think everything is a disappointment, if anything else. There's a lot of things missing that should be on there.
Definitely.
So yeah, at the last meeting, we commented on most of those, but I think we're probably beating a dead horse at this point because I don't see anything coming out of it. But I'd be more than happy to put those comments together again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, Marquette Township does have, not really pull down there, but when we speak, they do listen. I don't know that they always agree with us, but I think they know that because we're in the middle of the UP besides, we've got a lot of pull, that's not the right word, a lot of, not influence even.
Well, and I guess my biggest problem with the whole MTA is their unwillingness to go to bat over dark stores.
Yeah.
I just find that totally frustrating and absolutely an embarrassment that they're representing the townships and refusing to put that on as policy. They should stand up and be counted. I don't know why we belong to such an organization, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, Randy told us stories of talking to them and them saying, oh, we can't go against the governor, which is a few years ago, but.
That's what we get paid for.
Yeah. John, what have you got to share?
Dave made a comment that I support 100%. If they're not interested in going against the tribunal, then I don't think we should belong. I think we ought to tell them that, and it would be a sin to say that we think everything is fine. We think that they're acting inappropriately for people that represent us and seek our support.
Okay, sounds good. The last time, it was a year or so ago, I got a letter from, well, it must have been 2 years now because Mr. Sheridan's been the executive director, I think, almost 2 years. The previous director sent out a letter requesting financial support when Escanaba was going to tackle their case. And I wrote a letter back and said, with all due respect, we've put enough into this, so just don't expect anything from Marquette Township. We've done our blood, sweat, and tears, as well as thousands of dollars. So I do need to have a conversation with Neil.
Lynn?
Pete, yep.
It's nice to see that article in the newspaper on dark stores, and also Representative Kambenzi is sort of fighting the battle a little bit too, so we should give her a lot of support. And did you, by chance, have the time to talk to that city manager in Escanaba and just tell him the wind up down there?
I did not, nope, but it's still on my list. I'm sorry, I did not. I told you I spent a lot of time talking to Sarah. That was right before her interview. Right. And gave her an earful. And I had a long conversation with Lisa, as you can tell by the article.
Right.
Information. Dulcie put a great spreadsheet together. Once I know that's good with her, I'll forward that to you.
All right.
And you can see the impact. Okay, let's do that then. We'll look at that in type up whatever you've got, Dave or anybody, good, bad, or otherwise, so we can let them know whether it's disappointment, or we can just put everybody's together in one letter, or if we could just, if there's lists, we can just do it from each one of us, or whatever you think.
I don't like lip service.
We've already talked about all the times. Dan Pompo and I talked to them ad nauseum. Right after that happened, we went from meeting to meeting, and Larry and just, it was ridiculous. Oh yeah, well, we can't do anything right now. So I don't know. Anyway, that's where we are. Public comment. We've kind of lost some of our public, but if anybody wants to share any thoughts, now would be the time to do it.
Lynn, I have no emails for public comment.
Okay. How about any announcements? Anybody have anything to share? Tourists are in town, boy, they're not going away. We're
Where are
busy.
they?
Sorry?
I was just saying, boy, are they ever. There's just, I don't remember seeing the town this busy, ever.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And they're from everywhere but like Detroit, you know, they're from New Jersey and Nebraska and Florida.
Let's go to the UP. They don't have much coronavirus up there.
And that's what they're saying. We've never been here. We want to go see what's out. Randy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, from the election standpoint, Lynn, we should be getting our absentee ballots the middle of September, and we'll start getting them sent out then. Just so the residents know, we did get a bigger drop box because we were stuffed with the number of absentee ballots we got last time. So our drop box is double the size it was. So it should handle the volume we're going to get, and we're going to create some new signage so people know you can put your ballots and payments and different things in that secured drop box.
Good deal. Andrew, take care of that.
He did. It was good. It's nice.
Good. We were talking about that. Okay, Dan?
I got to ask Randy what he knows about. I saw an article today that showed that mail-in ballots, they've got a number on them. And in that number, if you're a registered Democrat, that number has got a D in a specific place on the ballot that anybody can see. And if you're a registered Republican, there's an R on that when you send it back in. Do you know anything about that, Randy? I mean, how easy would that be for somebody to do fraud?
Dan, no, those don't come from us. The ones that we usually give out or the state gave out did not have that. Those are coming from the parties, and we have nothing to do with that. But those would be applications. Those would not be ballots. So the applications that come in for the ballots would, if those you can still use those for applications to get a ballot, but we double check them versus what we have. And like I said, if they're doubled, say if you get one application and another one, we check them. So we make sure we don't have duplicates and send out 2 ballots. So, but those applications, and I've gotten a few in the mail myself, they're coming from the parties or, groups, and we don't issue those, but they still work if you want to get a ballot, but we double check.
Okay.
I did see an article today saying that, what is she called? The director of elections or something like that in the state is saying that they're just going to mail out absentee ballots this year. And they don't
they can't do that. We have to issue them. They can't. Basically, the people that have sent the applications in for August and checked they wanted it for November are going to get the ballots for November. But we just don't send everyone a ballot. They have to apply for it. And the state does not have authorization to send any ballots because they don't have them. We do.
Maybe that's what they were saying, is that she wanted authority to do that or something. I should have read it more clearly.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Okay. Any other? Go ahead.
But just like I said, make sure the residents, make sure you get your ballots done and get them in early. And if you can drop them here, it'd be better than mailing them because there's mail issues at the time. And make sure that, and if you ever have any doubt that we got it, just call us and check, and we'll make sure that we check to make sure we got it.
Good deal.
One last question for Randy. If they fill them out, can they bring them to the place of voting in person and hand them to you there?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. They can bring them up to 8 o'clock on election day to the precinct.
Okay. I think people should know that too. So if they're a little bit worried about whatever, they can make sure they bring them there in person.
Yeah, because at 8 o'clock on each precinct, we call each other and make sure there's no absentee ballots that have arrived by 8 o'clock before we shut the machines down.
Okay, Pete?
Hey, Lynn, one thing that it was a resident asked about before, but it's part of the bidding process for our road project. But I went out the other night when it was raining real hard, and we have kind of kind of embarrassing because here we got two houses on Montgomery. Once the water is going into his garage and breezeway, and we talked about that before. I was going to bring this up at Dave to the next road meeting. And then the other one's got to put sandbags in front of his garage because the water's running in there. And one's on the bottom of a hill on Montgomery and the other one's on granite, and we've been faced with that problem for a while. But, you know, we're taking water, and we sort of created the design of the road is that we created a funnel, and we're getting more water down towards these people's houses and that they had before, because before it'd go off the side of the road. Now we got a funnel there. Now I'd like to take a look at the bidding thing and just see if that was ever considered or something like that, because it's just not fair to these people. And I'm going to try to see if we can get something done on it, because 2 or 3 of them that they shouldn't have to put sandbags in front of their garage door because the water's coming in, and also into their breezeway and garage. And we have to do something with that because the culverts are all blocked up, and the water's coming down from 4 and 5 blocks, just like a big funnel. And it just, I'm gonna bring it up to Dave at the next meeting. So, but that's part of the public comment because they've talked about it before, and we're not getting nothing situated. We're not getting anything solved there, but I don't know if we can get it solved. You know, it's probably not part of the bid, but when we created the design of the road, did they take in the factor that we're creating that funnel, so to speak, and the water's going to go somewhere, and on the end of a road or on the bottom of a road with the volume of water, is the curb going to handle it and get rid of it? So I'm just kind of interested in that. So
it sounds like, John, you need to get a hold of, you know, that's not us designing that. That falls to the engineers and whoever.
I want to talk to Dave to take a look. I don't know if he has it or who got the bid on it. And is there anything in there that we could put for the next project or something like that, or to correct something like that? Can we use some money to correct it something? Because it's just not fair to those people that have to go through that. So.
Well, we can't have the project make something worse. I guess we'd have to determine if this was already a problem.
I don't know if the engineers took a look at that, or do they take that in consideration in their designs and stuff like that? So maybe Dave got a better answer, but it just don't seem right, that's all.
Yeah. John, can you check then? That's going to fall to UPEA. I'm thinking they did a lot of that, part of that, and find out, or maybe ride over there and see. You, from the engineering standpoint, have a good comment.
I'm familiar with both of the situations. The one on Montgomery is actually immediately down gradient of the culvert that we're hoping to get funded on Montgomery. So there might be some opportunity if we get the funding to fix part of that problem. The issue with the one on Montgomery is the water's coming from both directions. So when we get real heavy rains, it just goes right over the bit curb, and then it heads down their driveway because their home is even further below the road. So the water just aims right at them. And I think the one on Granite it's right on the corner, correct, Pete?
Right in the corner on the north. It's the northwest corner of the Granite in Montgomery. The water comes down Granite, and it comes down the 4 or 5 blocks from Montgomery Center and Summit, and it's all funneling right down to the road. And because I took pictures of it, and it's dragging some sand out and creating more of a problem. The culvert down there is covered over with the debris, grass and weeds and stuff like that, and so it's just terrible.
I think the one thing that everyone has to remember, and I wasn't here for this, but I've heard it said several times, most of these roads were repaved. They weren't reconstructed. Drainage wasn't a part of the equation because the funding wasn't there. That being said, I think if we can try to keep chipping away at some of this stuff, we can hopefully resolve some of these issues over time. It's just going to take money or ingenuity somehow. I'm not exactly sure how you do that other than reshaping the channel that the water takes to get to its ultimate outfall. But I am familiar with both of those. The one on Granite might be a little bit tougher because it's not in the vicinity of the 4 culvert project we're looking at funding for, but we haven't actually received news on whether or not we'll be submitting a full proposal for that one either. So I guess we have to wait and see.
Well, it still kind of falls to the engineers too. Like I say, they've been able to make some of those corrections.
What about the drain commissioner?
Yeah, I was going to say, but the debris falls to the road commission. They need to be, we need to introduce you to the road commissioner in a nice little meeting, John, and have 2 or 3 of these conversations, you know, bring all these points to him and say, hey, John's our new manager. Here's what we're dealing with, you know, good excuse for a get together. See what happens.
He'll tell you a drain district, you know, everything else, but these people can't wait for another, you know, couple of years.
Okay, let's see what we can come up with.
Lynn?
Yes.
Isn't the drain commissioner at all responsible for the cleanage of some of these drainage issues? Or is that just the county?
Yeah. Guys, you both have your mutes on and your hands up. Go for it, whoever.
Well, the county is responsible for the road ditches and the culvert issues along those road ditches. The drain commissioners, that's outside of his area of coverage. He deals with the drainage, not the road ditches. And John, you can chime in on that. I'm sure that's right. It's just, I think some of this issue will be resolved if we get this grant and move forward with that, but I'm afraid we might push it farther downstream, which is usually the case, until you—
and onto private properties in between as well. So that's all part of it. So the drain commissioner's role in all of this is totally dependent on the property owners affected. If they want to create a county drain, they have to basically go through a process that requests the drain commissioner create the drain, and then the drain commissioner turns around and assesses the cost to those people that want the improvements done. So currently, the only county drain that we have is Badger Creek. And so that's the drain commissioner's responsibilities in Marquette County, is Badger Creek.
That's it?
Correct. Until property owners follow that process in order to establish a new drain. And if they do that, they will immediately get charged the costs associated with the project that benefit their property.
Okay.
Really? What about the damages to their property? Who pays for that?
When it comes to acts of God, I guess I can't answer that one, but I think it's incumbent upon us, if we can find solutions to provide them. The key is we're very limited, right? In that we don't own the road right of ways. The only thing we own is the paving that we put down as part of our millage project for the most part. So I guess we can take a closer look at some of this stuff. The Montgomery one, like I said, I think that's probably got as much chance of either of them. Granted, if there's something we can do with ditching, maybe, but nobody wants ditches either, right?
This is part of the problem.
Well, and you got to remember too, Lynn, is a long time ago when this road project started, it was determined that the funding was not there to address drainage issues, and this is a rather large magnitude draining issue, and you can't use road rehab money for that. The money just isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Roger's pointed out numerous times, we have to be very specific on what we spend the money on anyway. That's why I said if we get some direct.
My question to the engineers, do they ever take an effect into consideration what's going to happen when they design a road? Because we just did more than just to put the pavement down. We had curves on the road. We had bib curves coming up. And do they ever think about what's going to happen and then say, this is going to happen, and you could bid it out, you know, try to say, okay, we should try to do this, but it'll have to go a separate bid than the road thing. You know, they must know what's going to happen. I mean,
that was my understanding. It was designed that way so that it was not supposed to make anything worse than it was already, So we'll have to find out either from the engineer.
Discussion on it anyways.
Okay. Put that on my list. I think we're still on announcements. Anything else we want to announce or share? Okay, let's move to the manager's report. John's first report.
And you don't have anything in writing this month. I think the majority of my time as your manager was spent either getting comfortable in my new office, getting familiar with the files, or meeting with various groups, including Supervisor Durant, Clerk Rattari, and Treasurer, wow, I'm drawing a blank, Johnson. Sorry. And then today I had a meeting with as much staff as we could get at one time to Township Hall. And I think for the most part, everyone is pretty excited moving forward. Obviously, with change can come apprehension, but I think we're all looking forward in a positive way, which is good so far. It's only a matter of time, right, before you change somebody's mind, but I'm hoping to drag that out as long as possible. And there are some changes happening within Township Hall as well. Andrew Wilder with Buildings and Grounds is going to be pretty busy for the next week or two, making some modifications, rearranging some furniture prior to bringing back full staff to Township Hall. So while we wanted to bring them back the Tuesday after Labor Day, we're thinking it might take one more week depending on how things go with him. But it's possible the week after Labor Day to get staff all back to work, and then it'd be 30 days before opening Township Hall to the public, assuming we don't go backwards as far as the return to work plan from the governor. So that's kind of where we stand right now.
Any questions for John?
I got a question. John, could Andrew, could he make plastics to put in between at the board meeting so we could return to the board meeting? Have separation and there, extend a board or counter a little bit?
I think so. I was in there looking at it today. I think we would have to create maybe 5 or 6 more that are narrow enough to fit on the board table there. It's not very deep, as you know. You sit there more than I ever will, and we have maybe 2 on Andrew's counter currently that would probably fit. The remainder that we have were made for elections, and they're probably too wide, so they wouldn't fit on your counter. But with a few more of those, we could probably space people out enough in order to meet in person if you felt that was what you wanted to do.
All right, just kind of curious that, you know, some people are going back, the city's gone back and they have separations in there, and just, I was going to talk to ask that to Lynn at the end, but I just thought I'd throw it out there now. So
we haven't talked about the board part of coming back live as much as we have the staff. Try to get them back in and make sure everything's in line for them. The governor's still saying we need to continue remotely if we can. It's, you know, it's not a requirement, but a lot of the municipalities around us either didn't really keep their employees away, or they have already returned them, and we've been the conservative ones. And John and I agree that they need to get back, because if you do this too long, it's gonna get worse. You need to get them back to work.
So Supervisor Durant, I think one of the last gauges we'll have on that by the end of this week will be our meeting on Thursday with the update from the health department Thursday morning. That will give us a good idea on whether or not we're rushing too fast to get people back. If it looks like the trend is still downward or plateaued, as they were calling it, I think we're probably pretty safe, because nationally that's where the numbers appear to be. Some would argue that we're out of pandemic status mid-June, but I'm not going to get into the politics of that. I think that's just what the raw data on the CDC website shows. So I think we've been cautious so far, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we're at a point where it's starting to make sense to consider getting staff back so we can return to full operations.
Well, even if we had everybody sitting in the middle of the floor, it would be bad, but everybody's split up. They all have their own offices or areas for the most part. And other than passing somebody in the hall, you can actually go this way instead of that way if you don't want to run into somebody. And we don't have a water cooler that everybody stands around. So we've got the protection at the front desk with the plastic for anybody that comes to the secretary receptionist. I think we're safer than most offices where everybody's, in cubicles or something. This way we're all spread out. Randy and I are probably the closest ones in the office because we share, but even then we're not, When
you leave the office, put your mask on. It's designed pretty much that it's safe in the office there. So,
well, you got to figure all of these employees are going to Walmart and Super One, and they're going to the park, or they're taking their kids to preschool or daycare. They're already interacting, and here they have an office that's all spread out. So, I don't feel personally that it's a very dangerous atmosphere for them. Have to see. We just do all of our PPE.
I think the good news there is I didn't hear any significant reservations from staff today. Maybe I will in the next 24, 48 hours if they didn't want to bring it up in a group setting. But overall, I think everyone's fairly understanding. It's been about 6 months since we've had everyone in the office working on a daily basis. So it can be done safely. We've got new hand sanitizer dispensers. We've got touchless hand towel dispensers in our bathrooms. The key is we want to make sure that when we do bring them back, we're not going to be disrupting them with some of the minor modifications and furniture moving we have going on. So hopefully a week and a half is about the max we would need for that.
John, I noticed in some places that the outside door, not our outside door, but the one coming into the office there, you could have that open so they don't have to touch that handle to come into the office.
We have had it open.
I've seen that.
Yeah. And we have talked, and Ernie mentioned it again too, about, having electronic doors or something. We talked about that from the ADA standpoint of allowing people to get in and out a little bit easier. So we might have to look at that, just to see. I don't know how we can afford that, or if we'll be able to, or what it would involve. Not as comprehensive as Manager Gerard was saying, but something that's going to protect them a little bit.
Just going away right now.
Anything else for the manager? Okay. You want to review motions, Randy?
Okay, the first motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented. The second motion was to approve the regular agenda as presented. The third motion was to put back on the next agenda the recommended approval of Recreation Committee bylaws, and that was approved. So there's 3 motions for the evening.
And it looks like we'll be trying to work on budget scheduling next meeting and maybe a presentation on the recreation millage and recreation bylaws. Hopefully those will be all up to snuff and finished. And then maybe look in October for something on the MTA supporting issues or not. And then I think John will have a couple items and anything else anybody can think of. Any board member comment? I look, my battery's about dead. I got 20% of my battery. Mr. Ernie.
My annual comment, September 14th, pay your taxes. And that if you haven't already done it. So you have to do it by the 14th of September. And that. I'll be happy to take your dollars.
Can I get an extension? Ernie, can I get an extension?
You're not old yet.
Can I apply to the review board for, you know, getting a, never mind. I don't know where I'm going here.
I want to go there, yeah. Any other comments? Andy?
Yeah, about bringing the board back, I think right now this is a decent setting for us. If we do come back into the boardroom, public's still not going to be able to come in.
Right.
There's going to be some challenges for trying to get public comment with that because we don't stream live. So the city's struggled, I think, with, they got their members back, but they've struggled with, I think, getting the public comment in and such. And I think this setting, we can still, it's easier for us to do it to this setting. And I believe we should do this setting until we can get everyone back into the room.
Personally, I like this because it's nice to be able to see everybody when they talk. You know, I don't have to do this all night.
That's what you got those lights for.
I know.
You keep pushing my button, but nothing happens.
Still can't see. I can't see you, you know, and John's way down at the end and Dan is. And
well, and another thing, Lynn, too, is why should we spend $400 or $500 in materials for just a temporary setup?
Yeah, hopefully temporary.
This isn't temporary, Andy.
I hope it will be eventually.
I hope so too. I hope and pray, I'll tell you. Oof.
Oh, my battery light came on. So can we say good night, or is there anything else?
I move to adjourn then, Lynn.
I'll second it.
Okay. It's 8:04.
We gotta roll call that first.
Yep.
The clerk retires, yes. Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
8:04.
8:04.
You know, it would have been a lot easier if the supervisor just adjourned the meeting. She has that power to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going off right now.
Yeah, well, I'll have to go get it. It's on.